Welcome back, everybody. Today we have a 2017, I'm sure you can't see that, I don't even know why I'm doing that, but this is a 2017 made in Mexico Stratocaster neck that was really, really nice. And the only reason I got it is because the guy was getting rid of it. First of all, he tried to act like he was getting rid of it because he really wanted a rosewood fretboard. But in reality, when he put the ad, and I bought this on Craigslist, so you know, you can expect that kind of stuff on Craigslist, no big deal. As long as you go in expecting it, it's fine. But I had him meet me out kind of where I live, out in this area, and comes to find out it was dented really bad on the first fret up here and then up here on the neck. And what had happened was it apparently either took a spill this way, in my opinion, because it was hurt here and across here. But it was pretty bad. I mean, bad enough where I would wanted it off my guitar. Good news is, if you have a break or a nasty spill like that, the good news is that on the like the maple necks or even the rosewood necks, as long as it's not a chip, if you don't have a chip missing out of the board, where you see like the the super raw wood or whatever underneath, and it looks like there's a piece missing. Like in this case, it was a large divot in the first fret. When you held it up to the light, it clearly showed a divot in the finish and also in the wood. So it definitely went deep enough to ruin the wood as well. But it's not a loss, because if the chip hasn't flown out, you have to sand back the clear coat finish, which I did on this one in that spot. And once you sand that back, it will expose the raw wood. Now when you expose the raw wood, you then I took a soldering iron. I always keep one on hand. It's like just an older, cheaper one, but it's got the larger flat tip on it. You could use an iron, just like your typical household iron, but I just find those are a little bit too big and bulky. But this does the trick. It heats up real good. Don't have to worry about tinning the tip. I mean, it's kind of a ruined tip, but you heat it up, let it get to full temperature, and then you put, after you've sanded the finish away from the fretboard, you take a wet, you drip a little bit of water, like a couple drops. I use these are great. You can get them for very inexpensively online. They're called pipettes, and they're used like in the makeup and medical industry. But it's just like it's like an air bubble up top. You squeeze it, put it in liquid, and then release that. It'll draw it up in there, and you can just put real fine amounts of either stain or water or anything into a direct spot. But I have you take the soldering iron and you put a little bit of drop of water in the dent. Take a rag. I just took a white cloth rag, and you wet that rag down really well too, and then you set the rag right on the spot where the dent is, and then you take the soldering iron and you heat it up. So you're basically taking the soldering iron with the rag, and these are soaking. Get them really wet. You want to hear the steam. So the dent was right here. You can't see it now, and I should have done the video without it, and I apologize, and I'll probably update it later. But you dip the rag in water, put a little drop right on the dent after you've sanded the finish away. You set it right over the top. You take the tip, and you hear it. I mean, it's steaming away. And just kind of rub it around in circles. You don't want to put a burn mark in the wood, but if you did, it's not the end of the world. Burn marks are very much on the surface. They're very thin, and I've never actually done it through the rag like this. We take a nice cotton cloth. Sometimes if you use a thin t-shirt or a paper towel, maybe it could rip, the tip could rip through, and then you just don't want the metal touching the wood, because that's what would leave the wood burning mark. So rotate it around. Let's take a look back. Take it up in the light. Look at it. Didn't pull it out all the way. You'll be amazed at how the wood is basically soaking up that water and re-expanding the dent that was made in the wood itself. Whereas if the chip was there, you'd have to actually fill it and then try to match it. But in this case, it's basically the wood fibers getting compressed down really hard from the whatever the offending article was that hit it, or if you dropped it or whatever else. Another tip, you guys, when buying anything online, especially on Craigslist, is to, like in this case, I met the guy here in Eureka, in where I live, and I brought a truss rod wrench that fits a made in Mexico Stratocaster. So when he showed up, he got his neck out, and you know it's all good. It's all good and great until you pay the money, and then it is what it is. So I could tell by looking at it that it suffered a pretty good fall, and I could also tell that he was aware that his ad did not really cover that as far as shoot. See, you got a bad finish. All right, anyway, you could tell that in his ad, in placing that ad, there's my clear coat. All right, anyway, you could tell that he didn't really disclose how bad the damage was, even though he did show a photo. It didn't really, in person, it looked a lot worse. So, having said that, I got to the place. We met up, and I checked the truss rod, because if the truss rod is no good, then you've just wasted everybody's time, and it's pointless to even go forward, because having a truss rod that doesn't work is irreparable. Like the neck is not worth that amount of money to try to replace that or to fix that. So what I did is I tinted this, and I'll show you here in a little bit. I haven't done the clear coat yet, but I will. But I did some wipe-on poly, and it's basically darkened this up to where you can see it, where it matches. So back to the story at hand. You take that soldering tip with the rag. It'll lift the dent completely out. You can't even tell there was ever a dent on that fretboard. And once I get this clear coat to match, and I'm kind of going through some tests right now of which one actually matches, and I'm going to darken the wood just a tad with some wipe-on poly and a little bit of stain, and then I'm going to use a clear coat over the top to match pretty good sheen that this has on it. Okay? Then I'll show you the top here. Remember, cheap tape is a lot better to get finish on than a beautiful Fender factory finish, because no one does it like the factory does. I don't care what anybody says. A mass-produced item such as these, the equipment, it's a one-time shot, and they do a great job applying the finishes to these products, and it's very hard to match it. It takes quite a bit of skill, and I don't think I would do it the way I'm doing here if I had an older guitar neck that I was really trying to match. I would be taking a lot more time and care to make sure I got it matched up properly. So I'll take a little bit of 600 grit and just give it a light sand. And then take a little bit of my cleaner here. Okay, you really can't tell the nick on this neck at all. You can't even tell what happened there. Gets a little black from the sandpaper, but that'll come right off. Those little black lines. And that's actually kind of how you know you're getting into the grooves of the actual damage. So there you go. Perfectly flat there. So you can't see the dent, but it really is pointless because I didn't show you the before picture, but I will. I will do that next time. So, word to the wise, be careful on Craigslist. Bring a truss rod wrench. Make sure it works. I don't care if you're buying a Strat. I don't care what you're buying. Just make sure you're not getting taken. Okay? Have a good one, folks. Thanks for stopping by. Leave me a comment below or request any videos. Thanks.